welcome to the debate. I'm your host, Maqbool, with you at PTV World. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at two important developments for Pakistan. The first is, of course, the Prime Minister's visit to the UAE, where he, of course, was there for an official visit of 2 days, attending also the World Government Summit, which, of course, was very, very important in terms of his own address, as well as the way forward in terms of governance and stability and key strategies for different countries to form. At the same time, of course, we enjoy brotherly and historic relations with the UAE, and just last month, the Prime Minister announced the very important development of a rollover of $2 billion debt by the UAE, which of course really helped with the current financial situation. At the same time, last year we've also seen that there have been pledges made for investments in Pakistan, which is very, very important given the current scenario, and of course moving forward with better trade and investment relations as well. How important and significant will this particular visit be in order to actually gain such advances for the country and to be able to benefit the country from investments coming in from the UAE, of course, remains to be seen. But we're going to try and understand what the effect of this particular visit is going to be. Our next one is going to focus on a visit of a foreign dignitary to Pakistan, which is the Turkish President. And this, of course, very, very important in terms of, again, a brotherly and historic relationship with this particular country, and the way forward also in terms of development on this front even further, given, of course, Pakistan-Turkiye Business Forum. That is going to be an important aspect of this visit, along with, of course, joint MOUs and other conferences that the two leaderships are going to be taking together, as well as a very important strategic council that is going to be moving forward with its 7 sessions. So I'm going to be, of course, taking a look at all of these details within our second segment as well, and try and understand what will be the outcome then of this very important visit to Pakistan. And so two developments in relationships with two different countries will be the focus of our show today. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi and Faisal. We've also been joined online for our first segment by Dr. Khaqan, Najeeb, who's a senior economist, and Mr. Usman, Shaukat, President, Rawalpindi Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us and being a part of the debate today. Dr. Khaqan, let me start with you with what we have seen happen in the past and the kind of developments that we've seen with the UAE, announcements of investment coming in last year, announcement of a rollover of a debt coming in as early as last month. But I want your take in terms of this particular visit also, and then in the ways that we can actually see any positive direction, particularly in terms of investment, because while, of course, we've seen previously as well that there have been pledges made, what is it that we're looking at in terms of tangible development within Pakistan?
So, Sana, I think this is a good time for Pakistan to realize that, besides the IMF engagement, the multilateral engagement, and consequently, what you've seen is that most of the rollovers to the tune of about $16 billion, $12 billion are, I think, bilateral, which means UAE, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and China. And the rest are the commercial loans. Most of them are likely or have been already rolled over. So your debt position or your gross financing needs position for this year is pretty secure. So moving beyond that, the kind of monies that you want to, engage with are to realize that Pakistan's investment to GDP ratio has, in the last 10 to 20 years not crossed 15%. Just to give an understanding of what that means, if you look at your adjoining countries, India, if you look at Vietnam, if you look at your best friend China, all the countries who have done well, something that has been common has been that their investment to GDP has hovered around 30 to 35%. Why do you need that kind of ratio? The reason is that as much you invest in terms of public investment, the foreign direct investment, the domestic investment is the kind of economy that you can grow. So it's important for Pakistan to start looking at that. If you look at the external side, Pakistan's over the last 10 years has been about $1.5 to $2 billion a year is the kind of investment that Pakistan has had. I remember going back 10, 12 years, I was the finance minister even before that. And, they were, visiting the US and they were talking about $5 to $7 billion then. But we have not been able to do so. And this is a good time to do good economic diplomacy. And the reason for good economic diplomacy is the following, that one of the prerequisites for economic growth is macroeconomic stability. So engagement with the fund has given you macroeconomic stability, which for viewers means the following 3 things. One, your inflation, which means the rate at which prices are growing has come down substantively, and for the first 7 months is down at about 6%. Number two, your current account, which is the difference between your own savings and what you borrow from abroad, is down and has gone into surplus of about nearly $900 million, and consequently your reserves are at about 2 months of imports, which is about $11.5 billion. So now is the good time to supplement non-debt creating instruments. So I use this word so that people understand that this is the money which comes through privatization. So you're trying to sell brownfield projects. It comes through Recodic, which is already working. It comes through setting up new areas. With Saudi Arabia, if you specifically talk, for example, we'll talk about every area. There have been some private deals. Aramco came in and took over the retail outlets of a company called Go in Pakistan. So, you have beginning to see some kind of excitement. We are told by the Saudis, so let's believe the Saudis instead of believing at the recipient country, that about $2.8 billion of deals are in the pipeline, and about 500 million plus is something that has already materialized. So that's something we can trust and we can believe in. At the same time, with UAE also, you can have not only your diaspora sending you remittances, but you can showcase some new areas where there can be interest. And even UAE, Middle East, across the board has interest in Pakistan's mines and minerals sector around Balochistan. Recodic is, just a small part of what we have there, and that's something we can think about. Then there is interest in refineries. So, many collaborations can come through, and then ITES is something we can do. And the major impetus can come through agriculture sector, where Pakistan has a huge base. So, Pakistan has to now realize the following, that whereas macroeconomic stability is the essential part, but what we've been missing and what we've been missing for a long time is the fact that our growth model has to be built on, investment, productivity, exports, and always I say this to you, that in an economy managed by capable, high quality technocrats and a committed leadership. I think that's the menu Pakistan has to start looking at today. If you've been to the IMF 24 times, and that's not because we were getting shocks. It's okay if you have floods and you go to the IMF, or Sri Lanka went to the IMF because tourism was down and they had an issue. But it is because we are not able to save and invest in our country to boost our economy or to improve what you call our productivity and consequently become competitive in the world. And we've also not done this because we've become a very consumption-oriented society, that we have not had our exporters or our manufacturing or our agriculture sell to the world. And that's why we keep getting into a current account deficit and back to the IMF. So then there are debt vulnerabilities in Pakistan. So we are also talking to hopefully CPEC loans being reprofiled. So it's like a wholesale reform effort, which part of it has to be geared towards creating good sustainable growth. Pakistan needs to create 3 million jobs every year. For that, we need to grow at 6 to 8%. We're going through the consolidation phase. It's a good time to correct the drivers of growth, and investment is a key driver of Pakistan's growth story. Economic diplomacy to tell the world that we have done all this. We want to continue to do all this. We want to remain engaged with the IMF, which is a necessity, so that for the next 2 to 3 years we can cement the macro stability, but do all the important work that I've just talked to you about. This now is the time to really, really make sure that the energy efficiencies, the productivity of the agriculture sector, our connectivity to the world, all these things actually find traction in Pakistan. We've not been able to build a growth story based on good macro stability and good investments in the country. These are areas which demand hard work. And every time we go and do this kind of hard work, we are unable to. Even in the last year, where I say all these things, when we went to sell PIA, we should have done a much better job. And the reason I say that is that, this has an effect in the sense that when you're able to deliver on something, then the world truly believes that you're, moving around the world, just not asking for reprofiling of monies, but you're able to showcase to the world that you've done some work on the investment platform, which shows to the world that you're serious to at least sell the brownfield projects. Similarly, we have been in talks on Recodec for some time now. I think that should be coming through in the next couple of months. Hopefully, all the sides have come on an agreement. Pakistan needs to show a number of deals in 2025. All this talk with the IMF is fine, but you need to showcase that you're able to deliver on these things which I've talked to you, and that's how we want to think about Pakistan. So moving around in the world, I was having this conversation with some very senior people, and I said we need to showcase Pakistan in a different light and stop just talking about fund multilaterals, debt reprofiling. We need to talk more about what is on offer and what we have done to improve that offer in Pakistan. We are a country where 60% of the youth are under 23. They're English speaking. But what are we doing to equip them with the today's modern IT and ITES? Are we opening new places? All these things. And last of all, and I say this because the fund is coming to Pakistan, we also have to think about our tax incentive structure. If we are going to tax professionals in Pakistan at that high kind of rate, this has very, very serious consequences. I was just looking at Bloomberg data. The number of doctors, accountants, and lawyers leaving Pakistan has increased. So both Pakistan authorities and the fund have to realize that if in the Middle East the tax rate is zero, and in Pakistan we are going from 25 to 40% in terms of taxing professionals, we can't be losing the kind of brain we want to keep in Pakistan. So that's the kind of conversation we start having with the fund also now as we move into the next budget. I think that's the overall scenario of Pakistan right now.
Right, absolutely. Thank you for that analysis, Dr. Khaqan. And I'm going to come to you also, President, with reference to what is the way forward, particularly for the industries. You're heading the chamber in Rawalpindi, and of course, a number of industries that you're dealing with. They have their own viewpoints, and you have your own take. And we've seen, of course, that many of these chambers are actually engaged in these conversations with the top leaders of the country, the Prime Minister's office. And these inputs are very, very important in the way forward in terms of what are the needs for the industries at the moment. While we talk about these big numbers and investments between different countries, what does that mean to you as an industrialist and for the industries in the chamber in Pakistan in terms of the effect that it has on their situation, if at all, and in terms of the ways that you want that impact to be created for the businesses within our country?
And Usman, the country actually getting out of the current situation. We keep on talking about privatization. On the other side, if the economy has to grow, we have to look towards creating more value. But on the other side, we keep on seeing that even our privatization isn't taking off. So how do you propose Pakistan add value to whatever we are creating, especially the private sector?
Thank you very much for inviting me on this very important topic. And I would say that I agree with most of the things that Mr. Khaqan Najeeb Saab has said here. Definitely, the business community that we represent has been struggling for the past few years. And as we know that the cost of debt and the cost of energy were the two main reasons that the industries were not able to operate at their optimal productivities. And hence, we even saw a lot of the industries leave Pakistan for other venues where they were able to get cheaper electricity or cheaper debt. So those were the two concerns that the business community had. And of course, one of the main pressing needs that we've always pushed for is a charter of economy. We always say that we need to have clarity around our policies. And it's high time that we have a clear industrial policy for our industrial sectors. It's great that we are seeing that the government is pushing the non-traditional export sectors beyond textiles now. We see a lot of push coming from the SIFC. I would like to commend the work that they've done over the last 2 years in giving clarity of policies to different industries. And that's at the end what the business community demands. I mean, you could have a bad policy, but the business community works around it. That's a bad policy is even worse, is better than having an uncertain policy. So uncertainty is what kills businesses. And that's exactly what we've been demanding, that give us some certainty of what the different sectors are going to be looking at in the coming years. Of course, the KIBOR rate is coming down. That is bringing down the cost of debt. We are going to see a lot of industrial activity being generated. But again, inflation, like Mr. Najeeb said, is a concern that as soon as you see the inflation numbers heating up again, the concern is that the KIBOR rates may start going up, and that may slow down the economy again. But we don't see that happening in the near future. The current account deficit numbers are getting better. We have seen an increase in the export numbers. And the good news is that we are seeing almost, we saw year over year an increase of almost 12% in export numbers from non-traditional export sectors. So, leather is leading our exports. They're showing an increase. Engineering goods are coming up. Pharmaceuticals is being pushed to increase and enhance exports. So we're seeing a lot of non-traditional sectors being promoted. But again, to Mr. Najeeb's point as well, that what we need is a clarity of policy. We need to know that regardless of the government changes or the regime changes or whatever happens on the political front, we need to make sure that the policy continuity is there. I always say that two things take a country forward. You need the intellectual capital, and you need the working capital. Unfortunately, Pakistan has seen a flight of both over the last few years. And in fact, recently the Bloomberg report that Mr. Najeeb is quoting here is very, very concerning. That you are seeing all the technical sort of roles being driven out of the country. You need these people as well as the finance in the coming years to run your industry and to take you into the next phase of growth. But I think now we are going to see the increase on the industrial side. We're going to see some, FDI has gone up by 20% as well. But we need to really make sure that we have the sustainability, and for that we need the human capital at the same time. And taxation is a big concern. Pakistan is being considered one of the highest taxed countries right now. In fact, I think there's more in store for the salaried class, and that's another reason why a lot of the technical people are, leaving the country, because they feel that the tax rates are sort of very, very steep at this point. Even for the businesses, it's gone beyond 50% in some cases. Fine, we have the IMF. Fine, we have those compulsions. But then again, we have to see that, are we taxing ourselves too much? Is the taxation rate compliant with what we have in the region, where we don't stifle growth, and in fact we encourage growth? So I think what we need right now is a look at the industrial policy, make sure that we have that continuity. Investors need to know where they're headed in the next few months and few coming years. And then, of course, the monetary policy and the fiscal policy has to align with your objectives. We have seen that happen in the last 1 year. We've seen the results come out as well. But again, like we say, investors are like flock of birds. You have one little bang here and there, and the flock of birds is gone. So we need to make sure that those shocks are not there in the system, be it internal shocks or external shocks. But then, every time there's an external shock, because we have internal weaknesses, we are unable to cope up with a lot of the external shocks that affect our economy. But right now, we don't see a lot of that. Oil prices have stabilized. We are seeing a global sort of economies come out of recession and there's growth there as well. But anything, I mean, on the geopolitical front, any external sort of shock can really impact us in a negative manner. So we have to make
Right.
sure
So
that
Usman Sab, coming back to the industries as part of the chamber, if you could also once again let me know that in all of these perspectives and these indicators that you've pointed out, would you say that the industrialists are happy or satisfied with the direction that the country is going into, with the steps the government has taken?
Yes, I would say for like I said, in the last 2 years, we have seen a lot of positive steps being taken for the industry. But again, they are sector specific. We are seeing certain sectors grow, but certain sectors have completely been sort of ignored. And at this point, a lot of the sectors are not happy with the government policy. They feel that there needs to be more, they should be conscious, the government should be conscious of their constraints as well. So I think if we talk about, an overall environment or the ecosystem, yes, there is positivity. We are seeing, the numbers get better. We are seeing, the macroeconomic indicators get better. But there's a lot more that needs to be done. And I think we need to make sure that the clarity going forward is given to all the industries.
Yeah, true. Dr. Khaqan, of course, looking at the larger picture, if we, look at this factor, FDI factor, globally, of course, we know right after Donald Trump, he won election and he came back to the Oval Office once more. He straight away, started talking about attracting, rather I should say, forcing on countries to bring in money, pour in money in the AI sector and in the IT sector in America, and he is looking for the investments in these sectors, of course, from the Middle Eastern countries as well. Here we are seeking FDIs as well. And can we say that this is the time in which, of course, we might not be able to find investments in the IT sector, but when it comes to traditional agriculture sector, with the enhanced agri-tech which Pakistan is getting with the help of SIFC from the China, can we say that this is the high time that we can attract FDIs in the agriculture sector? And if so, what kind of FDI, what kind of billions we should be looking at?
And Dr. Saab, earlier I asked a question about value addition or creation value. The question earlier, since you actually spoke about a flight of capital, both intellectual and financial, the concern is that still we have got some potential here, and there must be people around. Every time there's World Government Summit or similar kind of bodies that meet, and our Prime Minister, our leaders go there, the question arises, what can we go and show them? Unfortunately, I haven't seen any example of convergence of human capital and financial capital, which might actually work in tandem to ensure that Pakistan is creating value. Why would that be? Israel is a very small country, but look at the kind of products they come up with, Pegasus, God knows how many other things. Why is it that we are not adding value?
So, Faisal, I think in the short run, to get the economy going in terms of growth, the best engine that is available to you is to improve agriculture productivity. The reason is that, one, it is not in the purview of IMF, so there are no large conditionalities there. So that helps. Secondly, your yields, for example, I'll quote you some numbers. So Pakistan's wheat tons per hectare is 3, whereas China is at 5.77. So you are 52% of the productivity that China does. Cotton, you are 570 kilograms per hectare, and Australia is at 2,000, China is at 2,000. So you have a large productivity gap there. And that has a lot to do with your local conditions, your seeds, the way you delay getting seed approvals, financial intermediation, which means the monies that reach these people, the water usage, the mechanization, and in the end, as Usman Saab said, the intellectual capital. So you can do a lot in these areas in the next 2 to 3 years and be the food basket for the Middle East. The reason I always say that this should be your first area of impact is that one, it's out of the purview of IMF interaction. So, there are not a lot of, conditionalities here. Number two, what's most important is that there is a large gap that you can overcome. Number three, you can actually, so you import about 10, $11 billion and your exports are hovering from $6 to $7 billion. Let's say your exports were to go up to, 10, 11 billion. It's not a huge jump there. And your imports were to drop by a billion or 2 billion. Your current account deficit issue would get solved. I mean, besides even touching the industry, it would actually get solved because this is the $5 billion current account deficit that you have to sort. So, Faisal, that's a lovely question, and this is my favorite topic. And I'm not an agriculture economist, but I do a lot of thinking about this. Even your sugarcane, all the big boys are involved in sugarcane. All the important boys are involved in sugarcane. Sugarcane, 66 tons per hectare. Peru, 126 tons per hectare. The reason I'm giving you these examples is that in rice last year, just because India went out, your exports went to $3.5 billion and you got that jump. So the next 2 to 3 years, get this sector right. If I was running Pakistan, I would be doing this day in and day out. It would solve my CAD. It will solve my food security. It would solve my food inflation issue also. You had a wheat bumper crop. We didn't handle it that well, but your wheat prices going down, your rice prices going down in the country brought your food inflation tremendously down and pulled down all the inflation. Second important point is what Usman Saab mentioned. You have a tailwind in terms of the oil prices. Oil at $72 a barrel saves you $1 billion a month and 12 billion annually if compared to 85 or 90 billion dollars. So that's a tailwind. Trump administration is another tailwind. And the reason I say that is that it's a pro-growth, pro-market presidency. Use that to your advantage. It's a transactional president. Use that to your advantage. Do all this hard work. And coming to what Pitafi Saab has said, I entirely agree with you. We have not been able to add value to our productivity. We've not been able to add value to sell ourselves abroad. We've been to, I have started looking at this from FODP, Friends of Democratic Pakistan, back in 2005. I was in Australia and I remember we were having this in Japan. To just look at what we went to fetch $11 billion in Geneva because of the floods. If you go and actually look at the amount, I think a very, very small amount came back to Pakistan. So are we missing on the follow-ups? Are we missing on the projects that we need to put together? Are we missing on the deregulation that we need to do? But we are also missing on the fact that it is like people like Usman Sahab and the rest that have to be connected and have to form those global value chain adjustments with the world. So you have to start thinking about the economy. The conversation that we are today having is that beyond the IMF, what is there for Pakistan to do in terms of economic diplomacy, in terms of improving energy efficiency? But we have to start thinking differently. We have to think about global integration, functioning markets, divestment, really, really cut down on our regulation. And now you would say that, governments are always doing something of this sort. It is not that within the government there is something not happening. The problem is you asked Usman Saab, are they happy or not? The problem is the breadth and the depth that is required today is much beyond the purview of just, an average kind of effort. the kind of high caliber professionals that you need to put in all these key areas to deliver higher benefits. Just look at the guy that Trump has gotten to do your Department of Government Efficiency. He is the guy who went, when he bought X, he fired most of the people. When he took over that company, he let people go and made that company much more efficient. So Trump's brought him. I don't know how he will perform, but his temperament is very, very different. It's the kind of effort that is happening, maybe multiplied by a number of times. And then focused with, as I said, agriculture is my prime engine of growth for the next 2 to 3 years. Maybe ITES is my second engine of growth. And then you can look much beyond. And privatization is my third value addition, as you say, the biggest value addition. Now, in this year, some things out of these have to come through. We cannot finish this year and still say that all the 80 odd companies that we run are still with us, because the energy sector will still make a 600 billion rupee loss in the financial year that we are running this year, despite all the effort that we are trying to put together. So now is the time to go with the authorities. And then I mentioned the tax on the professionals. I second what Usman Saab saying on the manufacturing sector also. We need to have this conversation with the IMF authorities for the upcoming budget, that with that kind of high taxation, we cannot grow our industry. I mean, I can send that chart to you guys, and maybe you can send it to the authorities. Pakistan's manufacturing used to be 18% of the GDP. Just go back 10, 12 years back. Today, it's fallen to 12, 13%. That's the chart that needs to be shown to the mission chief of IMF, that this is where Pakistan stands. If America says they can't do well without having their manufacturing grow, how can we create jobs without having our manufacturing grow? These are the deeper consequences of the fiscal austerity that the country is running. I think this is the seriousness of the conversation. The authorities have done well to manage the IMF program to date. They have done well to try and convince the business community. Inflation has come down more than expectation at the back of local instruments, monetary policy, good fiscal behavior, and the international oil prices. But to capitalize all that to what I'm saying today remains to be seen as we pass the calendar year 2025.
Yeah, Sana, with your permission, Usman Saab, on a very lighter note, other day I was obviously in my balcony and I saw my gas geyser. Obviously these are the winter season, and it is working perfectly fine, and every winter season it perfectly works. What I was looking at is it is an appliance that is so durable, number one, and number two, quality is so perfect. But there were few things which I saw and I was astonished the way, there are certain things, if there is a manual, in that manual I saw that if there was English written, it was so poor English, plus the quality right on the top, of course it said beast quality. I'm pretty much sure somebody meant best quality. There are certain reasons that we, having the best quality appliances, still we are failing to, of course, market them in the Western countries. And in this age, when we can simply sell them on internet and we can export them there, still we are unable to send them over there. Knowing the fact that these appliances which we have randomly in Gujranwala or Kamoke somewhere, there is a small company that is creating these appliances, and they are so durable for 10, 12 years, nothing would happen to them. Still, winter season, which is like 10 months of winter season in the Western countries, we are failing to sell these appliances towards them countries. What is the reason behind it?
Right. The ways in which the current institutional infrastructure is conducive for the business community, particularly in terms of the kind of setups that you have to deal with, including the finance ministry, including the government offices, including the SIFC. How conducive are these infrastructures in helping supporting the business community to move forward?
Thank you. I think to your first question, it's something that I always repeat, that we are very good producers of products, but we are very bad marketeers. Pakistan, not only the country has an image problem, I believe our businesses have an image problem as well, and that is exactly what you pointed out. In today's world, you have to be conscious of marketing. You have to be conscious of putting yourself out there. We don't brand ourselves. We don't brand our products. We always talk about our exports not being value added. I mean, we talk about the surgical goods that are exported from Pakistan. We export them for just hypothetically speaking, for $1. They get value added for $3 in Europe, and they're selling it for $100. Why aren't we fetching that differential or that incremental value, which the Europeans or the others are? Why? Because we don't brand ourselves. I always give this example to what Mr. Khaqan Najeeb was also saying earlier, that the Middle East is one of the largest markets for halal food. Yet Pakistan is unable to export any halal food. And can you believe that all of the halal food comes from Brazil, which is not even a halal country? And imagine the cost of freight that comes from South America all the way to Dubai, and you are unable to export meat to the Middle East under the halal umbrella. Why? Again, you are unable to do the documentation. Sorry to say, we are unable to cope up with regulatory compliances. We are very good, craftsmen. We are very good people when it comes to making, things with our own hands, with our own minds, but we don't market ourselves. And, that finesse today is needed. When you're reading that manual and you see those kind of mistakes, of course that's not something that a professional would do. So I think a lot needs to be done there, and I think technical trainings need to be given to our entrepreneurs. We have this belt. It's amazing. I mean, you look at people in Gujranwala, Gujarat, Sialkot. I say this is the entrepreneurial hub of Pakistan. You go into every little street and corner and you see a little factory. In every little home they're making something, but yet they're not on the internet. They're not on out there. They're unable to even market their products to the big cities of Pakistan. So I think we really need to market ourselves. We really need to now look at the value added part of things, because if we don't, we won't be able to fetch the dollars that we hope so. To your second question, yes, I mean SIFC platforms that we collaborate with, the policy makers, they really are helpful, but for how long is what the question is. We see these spurts of clarity, of good governance, and then suddenly we see long durations of completely I would say negative business policies being implemented as well. So we hope that everything that is being said by the chambers, these are pre-budget times. There are negotiations going on with the finance ministry. We're giving them recommendations sector by sector, on different policies that should be implemented. But I would again commend SIFC. They've done a great job. I mean, they saved a lot of the industries from disaster, and we personally know what they've been doing. But again, this mandate was also given to BOI. This mandate was also given to a lot of other entities that failed to deliver. So that's our problem. This over-regulation, and then there are platforms that are failing to deliver. Hence, you need to have a platform like SIFC step in and sort of make corrections. We need to make sure that our institutions that are in place for these jobs and responsibilities play their role.
Right, absolutely. Thank you very much, Usman Sahib, and thank you very much, Dr. Khaqan Najeeb, for joining us and being a part of the discussion today and joining us in debate and sharing your views. We're going to quickly take a look at our next segment as well, which is, of course, the visit of the President of Turkiye to Pakistan, and he's, of course, coming here on a two-day official visit on the invitation of the Prime Minister. And Faisal, I want your take on what this visit means, particularly in terms of the way forward, and particularly, again, in areas of trade and investment, which is a very, very integral part of this visit.
Yeah, obviously, Sana, when we talk about this visit, of course, this is going to be one of the most important visits in recent times. Of course, we know that preparations are already have started, and of course, JF Thunders, they would be welcoming the Turkish president as soon as the Turkish president enters in Pakistan's air territory. Of course, our JF Thunders, they will be joining the presidential plane, and this is going to be very important in terms of Pakistan's relations with Turkiye. Turkiye is a brotherly country to Pakistan. Whenever in thick and thins of both of the countries, they have been standing shoulder to shoulder to each other, be it Pakistan's floods, be it Pakistan's earthquakes, or be it Turkiye's earthquakes. Both of the countries, they have been standing shoulder to shoulder to each other. In coming days, of course, we'll be having lots of things to learn about our, of course, agriculture sector, our economic sector, especially the industries. There will be, of course, memorandums that would be signed when this visit takes place. Plus, the defense production, of course, we know that both of the countries, they have many joint ventures in terms of defense cooperation, and that is going to be, of course, further enhanced in coming days. And to me, I think this particular visit is going to be very, very important.
Yes, Farrukh, your take on this.
Right. I think that when you talk about President Erdogan, one thing that you should actually see as quite a compliment is when Donald Trump is talking about a foreign leader and he calls him a tough leader, a tough person, that means that that person has Donald Trump's respect, and everybody should be respecting him, because it is not easy to be too tough in his book. That is not all. Turkey, like China, is one of the miracles of Pakistan's existence. Another one is Turkey, because Turkey and Pakistan actually came together and have been standing together since the very start of Pakistan's journey. And that is not all. Even before freedom, South Asian Muslims were very sentimental about Turkey, and we saw how they actually went out of the way to protest and to support them, right? Now, given that they are going to be MOUs, but right now the defense cooperation has already started and intensifying. I think in coming days you are going to see a lot of progress in both these counts. And Pakistan has also, acknowledged and stands with Turkey's position on Syria and other regional countries. So I think that there is going to be only positivity that is going to come out of this visit. And it is good that we are seeing such an important dignitary coming to Pakistan.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Farrukh, and thank you, Faisal, for joining us in the debate as always. And we're, of course, looking forward to this very important visit to Pakistan, and we'll be here to speak more about it. But that's all that we have from the debate today. We'll now see you tomorrow.